You are watching the program World Today. In the video speech on March 26, the president of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky specified that for every Russian position destroyed, a Ukrainian soldier's life was saved. According to reports by local officials, in just 24 hours Russia has shelled and launched rockets that have killed at least 7 civilians in northern and eastern Ukraine. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, says that about 10,000 Ukrainians, including the elderly and disabled, are living in terrible conditions in and around the Bakhmut battlefield. The Russians must remember that we will never forgive what they did to Ukraine. Our warriors are fighting against Russia. Every single Russian position destroyed is a Ukrainian life saved. Pro-Russian officials say Moscow is creating demilitarized buffer zones inside the territories it has claimed to be annexing, and asserted that without these zones it would be impossible to penetrate deep into the territory Ukraine. Reuters has not been able to verify these battlefield reports at this time. Earlier, President Zelensky had said that Ukrainian forces were in need of more ammunition, so they were waiting for their allies to send weapons. This week, retired Major General Mick Ryan of the Australian Army commented that the Ukrainian army is almost the most sophisticated force in the world today, after a year of fighting with Russia. In an interview with Kyiv Post on March 23, Ryan discussed various aspects of the Ukrainian armed forces such as the use of weapons and tactics, in the fight to push the Russian army out of its territory. In my opinion, Ukraine is the best military in the world right now, Ryan said. They are the most experienced in modern warfare. They have proven themselves over the past 13 months. Ryan's comments come as the battle continues without end. According to Ryan, there are a number of factors affecting the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukraine's territorial defense forces are very professional, both new and old soldiers are mobilized, the general said. It seems they have many independent units. Later on the same day, senior advisor of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, Mark Kanchan told Newsweek that Major General Ryan's comments were completely correct. Major General Ryan was right to point out the human element of war, especially training and leadership, Kanchan said. There is no doubt that the Ukrainian army now possesses more combat experience than any other country. As Ryan said, Ukrainians are better than Russians, but they are still not the best in the world. Kanchan explained that the training process of the US military is very different from that of Ukraine. According to him, the Kyiv army only has 2 to 3 weeks to train before going to war, while American soldiers must be trained for up to 22 weeks. He also shared that every year Ukraine sends 2 battalions to Europe for training, while the US military sends about 60 battalions to the same training. Kanchan said that most Ukrainian commanders are skilled on the battlefield, but they may lack the intensive training to carry out complex coordinated maneuvers. In the latest update of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the number of Russian losses over the past year is 3,000 tanks, 6,898 armored vehicles, 305 aircraft, 290 helicopters, and 273 systems air room. The Moscow side did not respond to the information given by Ukraine. Also this week, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev affirmed that any conflict involving nuclear powers has no ultimate winner. Therefore, it makes no sense to compare military power between Russia and the United States. Medvedev stressed that the consequences of a nuclear war would be terrible and that there would be no strongest army. He said that a country's defense strength will be judged by the results of military campaigns. Medvedev said, "In my opinion, the US military can be considered as strong as long as they are fighting on the ground." He cited the case that the Washington military engaged in wars in the past did not take place on American soil, and they are not responsible for what has been done. However, the case of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is quite different. "We are fighting for our people," Medvedev said. Moscow's real opponent is not the Kyiv regime but NATO. They have 3.6 million troops and an economy of 800 million people, providing money and weapons to Kyiv. They don't hide this. Medvedev argued that Russia's goal is to ensure security. He described a demilitarized security fence located about 70 to 100 kilometers deep along the Russian border. This will ensure that Ukraine cannot attack the territory of the Russian Federation. That's why we have to go to Kyiv or Lviv and do whatever it takes to eliminate the threat of attack, he warned. Asked how long the war would last, Medvedev said he did not have the power to set a specific time frame. On March 24, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council Dmitry Medvedev warned that foreign weapons and experts coming to Ukraine would be a legitimate military target of the Russian army. At a press conference, Medvedev told the media, "It is clear that the West's supply of weapons to Ukraine is an act of direct involvement in the battlefield. Their analysts are aware of this. If Western military experts come to Ukraine with the aid shipment, it shows that they are involved in the conflict. Herefore, any weapons and military experts that come to Ukraine's territory are legitimate targets of attack and can be destroyed." According to Medvedev, foreign experts who come to Ukraine are also considered fighters and opponents of the Russian military. They need to understand that when a Polish or American soldier shows up in Ukraine, that person has to be removed, he concluded. This looks like a conflict between Russia and NATO. Whether it's supplying aircraft or uranium ammunition, it's all about participating in a conflict against Russia. CNN quoted Matilda Bogner, head of the United Nations monitoring mission to Ukraine, as saying that the United Nations has recorded hundreds of disappearances and detentions carried out by Ukrainian and Russian forces since its inception conflict broke out. According to the United Nations, Russian forces are involved in more than 600 cases of forced disappearances and arbitrary detention, while the Ukrainian side is involved in 91 cases. Unfortunately, we found significant violations on both sides, Bogner said, referring to prisoners of war being executed, tortured, mistreated, and subjected to other tortures. Terrible detention conditions. After the outbreak of hostilities, Russia and Ukraine both forced each other's cruel treatment of detainees, violating conventions, international law, and ethical standards. Currently, the two countries have not commented on the latest information released by the United Nations. RT site reported recently, a controversial bill has been submitted to the Romanian parliament, with the goal of ending recognition of the current border with Ukraine by 2027 and regaining the territories inhabited by people of origin Romania lives. A treaty between Romania and Ukraine was signed in 1997 to establish a commitment to respect each other's borders. To date, Romania's right-wing legislator Diana Sosoica has proposed a new bill to repeal the treaty. Sosoica said the 1997 treaty was the most egregious act of treason in modern Romania's history, as it contained a provision to recognize the Soviet-German Pact. This was an agreement signed in 1939, for the Soviet Union and Germany to define their spheres of influence. Romania joined the Nazis during World War II, before turning to the Allies. After the war ended, Romania lost some territories and they were added to Ukraine and Moldova in the Soviet Union. Sosoica said that the lands from North Bukovina to Snake Island in Ukraine have been Romanian for a long time. Romania and the Kyiv government had a legal battle over maritime sovereignty that lasted until 2009. Under the proposed bill, Romania would take back these territories. The congresswoman explained that it was necessary to protect people of Romanian origin from Ukraine's racist policy. This bill has met with great opposition. Lawmaker Sosoica stressed that she did not want to wage war for land but insisted that peace cannot be based on the national assimilation that the Kyiv government is carrying out. Critics have criticized Sosoica as far-right and connected to the Kremlin. However, the current Romanian government has always supported Kyiv in its fight against Russia. Regarding the arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin issued by the International Criminal Court, ICC, recently, Armenia, a country known as an ally of Russia, said it will ratify the Rome Statute establishing the ICC and become a member of it. The information is quoted by RT Radio, citing the statement of the Constitutional Court of Armenia. The Chief Justice of the Constitutional Court of Armenia, Armen Dilanyan, on March 24 ruled that the Rome Statute is consistent with the national constitution, thereby paving the way for the parliament to pass the statute. Asked about the move, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Armenia had not yet ratified it. "We will discuss this with our partners," he added. According to RT, joining the ICC could force Armenia to comply with an arrest warrant for Russian President Putin if the leader visits. Armenia is an ally of Russia. It is also a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CTSO, along with Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Meanwhile, Russia served as a mediator for a ceasefire in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict between Armenia and neighboring Azerbaijan. Meanwhile, Austria's Justice Ministry said that as a member of the ICC, Austria is obliged to enforce the arrest warrant for President Putin issued by the agency. The statement was made during an interview with the Ukrainian news agency Ukrinform. Austrian officials referred to the case of former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, who has been charged with war crimes by the ICC. They also affirmed that no one can be above the law, not even the head of state. Every crime must be fully investigated and cannot be waived. The Austrian government has not yet officially answered the question. Earlier, German Justice Minister, Marco Buschmann, in a statement affirmed that Berlin will obey the ICC's order to arrest President Putin if the leader sets foot on the country's territory. On March 17, the ICC issued an arrest warrant for President Putin and Child Rights Commissioner Lvova Belova for alleged involvement in bringing more than 16,000 children from the occupied regions of Ukraine to Russia. The ICC emphasizes that it has enough legal basis to hold President Putin accountable for this. The ICC currently has 123 member countries. Russia, Ukraine, the United States, China and India do not participate in and do not recognize this body. Recently, Estonia has expelled another Russian diplomat working at the Russian embassy in Tallinn, accused of undermining security and propaganda for Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. The statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Estonia on March 24 reads, "The diplomat in question took part directly and actively in undermining the security and constitutional order of Estonia, as well as spreading propaganda justify Russia's military actions and cause division in society in Estonia." The agency added that the expelled diplomat must leave Estonia by March 29. Reacting to the move, the Russian Foreign Ministry affirmed that Moscow will take corresponding actions. In late January, Russia announced the expulsion of the Estonian ambassador and downgraded bilateral diplomatic relations. After that, Estonia also asked the Russian ambassador in the country to return home. Estonia, along with two other Baltic states, Latvia and Lithuania, has maintained a harsh attitude towards Russia after the conflict in Ukraine broke out. Moving on to other outstanding news from around the world. On March 24, during a joint press conference with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, U.S. President Joe Biden said he would seek to support the police force in Haiti and promote the role of the United Nations to quell the situation violence in this Central American country. Speaking at the press conference, President Biden said, "The best thing we can do is strengthen the police force in Haiti. It takes time, but they will deal with the violence. We are also looking at whether the international community through the United Nations can play a larger role." Biden also did not rule out sending troops to Haiti to stabilize the violence. He said this requires consultation with the United Nations and the Haitian government. The Republic of Haiti is a country in the Caribbean Sea, Central America. For months, the country has faced chaos due to violent protests and inflation. On March 24, former U.S. President Donald Trump warned of death and destruction if he was prosecuted. Trump's move came hours after New York prosecutors spoke out about an investigation of a $130,000 payment he used to silence porn star Stormy Daniels. They said they would not be intimidated by Trump's comments. What kind of person can prosecute a former U.S. president who has received more votes than any incumbent president in history and is the leading Republican candidate for a crime no one wants to hear about? No, it's not true. Everyone certainly understands that the destruction and death underlying such a false accusation could be catastrophic for the nation, Trump wrote on Truth Social. According to Reuters, the message marked Trump's latest attack on Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who is leading an investigation into whether Trump used money to silence a porn actress. In a post last weekend, Trump announced that he was likely to be arrested on March 21 and called on supporters to protest to oppose this. However, in response to a letter requesting a hearing from Republican lawmakers in the House, Bragg's office criticized Trump for creating false speculation about his imminent arrest. They said this was an unprecedented act when intervening in legal proceedings underway at the local level. Meanwhile, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office also affirmed that it will not accept the congressional investigation to prevent it from exercising its authority. In another related development, NBC on March 24 reported that Bragg's prosecutor's office had just received an envelope containing white powder with the threat, "I will kill you." Bragg's office later confirmed the incident. and said the envelope did not contain dangerous substances. The Élysée Palace in a statement on March 24 said that the state visit of King Charles III to France will be postponed amid a wave of protests against the plan to reform the pension system. Violence across France, including the capital, Paris. According to the Élysée Palace, this is a decision made jointly by the British and French governments after French unions called for another day of strikes and nationwide protests. King Charles is expected to make his first foreign trip as head of the British royal family. According to the original plan, the king would visit France on March 26 and Germany on March 30. Reuters reported that the postponement of King Charles's visit has disappointed French President Emmanuel Macron, as the leader expected the British monarch's trip to mark a symbolic turning point in efforts to seal the deal ties between London and Paris after Brexit. On March 24, the first conference on water resources in half a century ended. The United Nations hopes that the conference will create political impetus for countries to take action to protect humanity's water resources. Unlike the climate agreement in Paris in 2015 and the meeting to protect biodiversity in Montreal, Canada, 2022, the Conference on Water Resources does not establish binding between countries. Nearly 700 coalitions including regional governments, non-profits, and businesses have voluntarily committed to protecting water resources. Investments in environmentally safe agriculture, restoration of wetlands in the Niger River, and mapping of water systems in the Netherlands were all discussed during the conference in New York. The Dutch Special Envoy to the United Nations, Henk Ovink, said these plans will continue to be considered at another conference in July. The Water Conference is the beginning of a ripple effect across the globe, he said. The World Resources Institute's, WRI, acting global director for water, Charles Iceland, says about 30% of the plans submitted will have an impact on countries. However, NGO activist groups said that the number of representatives from countries attending the meeting was still low. During the meeting, French wastewater treatment company Veolia pledged to spend $1.7 billion over the next 5 years to invest in infrastructure, technology, and innovation in the water and sanitation sectors. Businesses participating in the conference also asked to address financial risks related to water and resource protection. Every year on the last Saturday of March, many countries around the world will turn off their lights to celebrate Earth Hour. After 10 years of participating in this initiative since 2013, Russia recently said it will ignore Earth Hour this year. Earth Hour is launched by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, to raise public awareness about climate change and save energy by turning off unnecessary electrical appliances within 60 minutes. This year, the initiative took place on March 25, with the theme, Saving Electricity into a Habit. However, on March 24, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told the media, "This year, we have decided not to observe Earth Hour." The official also confirmed the move was related to WWF's designation as a foreign representative by the Russian Ministry of Justice earlier this month. At that time, the Russian Ministry of Justice affirmed that the WWF office in Russia received funding from abroad and sought to influence the decisions of the Russian authorities and disrupted projects, industry and infrastructure in Russia in the form of a call to protect the environment. WWF said it opposed the decision of the Russian Ministry of Justice, noting that the main goal of the organization is conservation of biodiversity based on harmony between people and nature. WWF also confirmed that it will continue to work on conservation of endangered species in Russia. Recently, Brazilian Environment Minister Marina Silva announced that the country and China are discussing an investment fund to develop green industries and renewable energy for both countries. Silva said the new fund between China and Brazil will be used to restore forests, develop green hydroelectricity, and work towards a sustainable economy. The proposal could be formally announced during President Lula's upcoming visit to Beijing. Silva hopes China will have a larger agenda to deal with climate change, protect forests, and biodiversity. However, according to Silva, China will not join the billion-dollar Amazon Fund initiated by Norway, which aims to fund the sustainable development of the world's largest rainforest. Currently, Spain, France, and the UK are considering joining this fund. Last month, while visiting the White House, President Lula received a pledge from President Biden on policies to protect the environment and the Amazon forest. In the German league, the Bayern Munich club recently confirmed the signing of a 2-year contract with coach Thomas Tuchel, after parting with manager Julian Nagelsmann. Coach Thomas Tuchel will start working at Bayern from March 27 under a 2-year contract, until 2025. Bayern's decision to sack Nagelsmann has surprised fans as the team prepares to face Dortmund in the Bundesliga next week and Manchester City in the quarter-finals of the Champions League on April 11. Bayern CEO Oliver Kahn said, "We made the decision after noticing that the quality of the team's performance was steadily declining despite being the defending champions last season. Unstable form makes the club may not achieve the goals set for the season. So we have to be mobile." Nagelsmann, 35 years old, becomes the coach of Bayern in 2021 and has led the Bavarian team to its 10th Bundesliga title. Meanwhile, new Bayern boss Tuchel won the Champions League with Chelsea in the 2020-2021 season, before being replaced by Frank Lampard last year. The 49-year-old has been unemployed since then until signing with Bayern. Ladies and gentlemen, on March 24, 3 fragments of the Parthenon were brought to Greece, through the Vatican. This is considered a continuous effort of Greece to bring home the long-standing sculptures located at the British Museum. The Parthenon is a temple dedicated to Athena, built in the 5th century BC. The fragments are housed in the Parthenon Gallery. This is where the original stone fragments of the temple symbolize Greek architecture, and plaster copies are now in the British Museum. They are but a small part of the vast treasure. It would be great if everything was recalled and put together. We hope that happens. Bishop Terrell is secretary of the Vatican Pontifical Council. He said the fragments sent to Greece have been in the collection of the Vatican museums for more than a century. Pope Francis ordered their return last December. The Pope presented the fragments to Sir Hieronymus, head of the Greek Orthodox Church, as a gesture of solidarity of the Roman Catholic Church. Greece has repeatedly appealed to Britain to return the Parthenon works. In the 19th century, the British diplomat Lord Elgin brought them out of the Parthenon in Athens. The British Museum's president, George Osborne, said the museum was in agreement with Greece so the sculptures could be exhibited in both London and Athens. Mr. Osborne did not elaborate on whether to return the sculptures, due to legal hurdles. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said there are no plans to amend the law regulating museums. However, the British Museum can still lend the sculptures. Greece said it would never allow Britain to keep what was allegedly stolen from Athens. Also on March 24, Muslims in India participated in the first prayer of the holy month of Ramadan. This is one of the most important holidays of the Muslim community. The image was recorded at a mosque in the capital New Delhi, India. Devotees came together to pray and perform rituals. Today is the first Friday of the month of Ramadan. People remember Allah and pray for their sins in their previous lives. We pray to Allah to help us become kind, ethical and hard-working people, contributing to the development of the country. The holy month of Ramadan takes place in the month of September of the Islamic calendar. During these 30 days, believers will abstain from eating, drinking, and smoking from dawn until sunset. In the evening, they will gather with family and friends for meals known as iftar, with the main course usually being dates. Many citizens of this South Asian country have entered this year's Ramadan with concerns as their economy is negatively affected by record high inflation due to disrupted food supply chains and an energy shortage along with the depreciation of the currency. Therefore, they have to calculate more carefully to be able to buy enough food for their family during this holy month. Ramadan has started. Every day, the prices of goods are increasing, but salaries do not change. People struggle to go to the market. Everything is very difficult for poor people like us. Also on March 24, many believers gathered at mosques to participate in prayer services on the first Friday of Ramadan. Bangladesh is one of the predominantly Muslim countries, with over 90% of the total population of 165 million being Muslim.